This is Belle, and today I'm reviewing Shades of Earth by Beth Revis. This is the third and final book in Across the Universe trilogy. Apparently she's written another book and some short stories in the actual universe, but it's basically a trilogy. So I read the first two books quite a while ago, I think before I went to college. So I just now picked up this one over Christmas break, and it was almost like reading it standalone because honestly I didn't remember a lot of the plot points from the previous two books. That ended up not being too much of a problem. She talked about reminded plot elements that we needed to know, so I don't recommend picking Shades of Earth up as a standalone. You should probably just read the whole trilogy, but I probably wasn't as emotionally invested in it as I would have been if I'd read it very soon after reading the first two books. So basically, Amy and Elder have taken a collection of people from the ship, and they're landing on the new planet, and they're waking up all of the people in cryo, and then they try to settle on the planet. I don't want to tell you much more than that, again, because huge fan of not spoiling things, but this book has a few interesting themes running through that I really appreciated, and one of those is that Amy has parents now. So one of the problems in YA, especially in YA, like fantasy, sci-fi, dystopia, is that parents don't factor in very much. To have a teenage hero or heroine, they basically have to have parents who aren't that important. They're either dead or they're incapacitated in some way. So like Katniss has a mother in the Hunger Games, but her mother is weak. She basically had a breakdown after Katniss's father died. So anyway, parents aren't very important most of the time. And for the first two books, then Amy had no parents. Elder didn't have a lot of supervision. It was a typical parentless YA fiction. And in this third book, both of Amy's parents are woken from cryo, and all of a sudden she has parents again, which is super interesting, especially in combination with the fact that Elder is the leader of his people. Like, he's a teenage boy and he's the leader of his people. And then Amy's dad wakes up and he's like a general or something. He's the head of the military group. And he has no respect for Elder whatsoever. And there are very interesting power dynamics going on there. But I especially appreciated the fact that it's YA fiction and there were parents, and they deal with some of the awkwardness that would come from having a child, a typical young adult hero or heroine, and having them with parents there all of a sudden who don't want them to go running out into a dangerous situation and don't want them hanging out with this boy all hours of night. And I appreciated that a lot. One of the other interesting themes is a lot about race and about how we deal with, to use a literary term, the other. So technically there aren't really that many racial differences between the cryos, the people who came from old Earth, and the ones who were born and raised on the ship. But there's a lot of conflict and discomfort there. They don't really know how to deal with each other. They're not comfortable, and it creates some very interesting tensions. Revis is dealing with a deep and dark, also very current topic there. She deals with it well. I think it's a good thing to be talking about in fiction, especially young adult fiction, so I appreciated that. In other ways, it's in some ways a typical YA. I saw the ending, I don't want to talk about the ending too much, but it's one of two ways it could have gone, and either way, it was just, I've read too much. It's too cliche because I've read too much of it. So there's not a lot in the book that really surprised me. I think she has wrapped up her story well. She has created a satisfactory ending to the trilogy. She creates some real depth in the last book. She's talking about serious issues. She's dealing with some real life stuff in having family there and the parental dynamics, which I'm so glad for. But it's a typical young adult trilogy. I don't know that there's anything that makes it stand out to me more than Hunger Games or Divergent or any of the other really popular young adult trilogies right now. It is sci-fi. That's different. So they're sailing in a spaceship for hundreds of years across the universe and coming to a new Earth quote unquote. So a lot of the young adult authors have not been writing in the actual sci-fi genre. She is. It's more or less straight up sci-fi. So I do think that's cool. If you're into sci-fi, this would be one to look into. If you like young adult literature, also a good series to read. Like I said, it's not necessarily exceptional, but it's a really, really, really good trilogy and a good final book to the trilogy. So kudos to her. Not everyone can write a trilogy and end it well. So good read, highly recommended. Let me know in the comments if you have read the trilogy, what you think, and what else you guys are reading.